Hi guys, it's me, Brooke. I'm back. I took last week off because I had legitimately no voice. You can sort of still hear it in me. I am coming back to life slowly but surely. Weird situation. I'm going to get into it, but we are back. It's another Thursday, and it's Pop Culture Mondays on Thursdays. Hello, everyone. Yeah, so I lost my voice, and it was one of those very strange incidences where I have not had this in my 52 years. It's my birthday week, so I'm turning 52 this week. So just so you know, I can say that with my friends don't have to yell at me and saying you're aging yourself up. I am legitimately 52 this week. So there you go. But I wasn't sick. Like I didn't have a sore throat. I didn't have a cough. I didn't have a runny nose. I didn't no aches and pains, nothing. I just lost my voice. Like it just fell out of my body. And I don't know where it went. I don't know. For a moment there, I didn't think I was actually going to get it back. I was like, oh, I live here now. And when I say lost my voice, it wasn't like horsey. It wasn't scratchy. It wasn't like RFK Jr. Ugh. And if, by the way, that was how I was going to live, I would just stop talking and get a computer. But it just was gone. There was nothing. It was like I couldn't even whisper. It was the strangest thing. The doctor said it was like a severe throat infection. I had to write notes. That's how I communicated for at least 2 days. Monday was the worst of it. Sunday, Monday. It was wild. So I am slowly but surely coming back. Me without a voice it's not fun for anyone. Maybe it's fun for some people who are giving me a lot of shit for it and taking advantage of letting me just listen because I'm a talker. If you guys didn't figure it out, I have a podcast where I literally talk to myself for 45 minutes. But we're back. I am skipping over last week's stuff because holy moly, we have a lot to talk about this week. And the newsletter this week. I'm going to be honest, I meditated on it, if you will. I understand the bad tasteness of making the lead story about what happened at the White House Correspondents' dinner the story in a pop culture newsletter and now podcast. Nobody was hurt, so I don't think I would have at least done it with the tone of humor, which is we've covered serious things here before, where they take on a viral moment, but this particular week, and I understand I'm not discounting people's fears and the trauma and whatnot, but this particular week we take a little bit of a humorous approach to some of the things that came out of that crazy experience that people had at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And there's a few other things we'll get to, but let's just dive into it because for me, I love to connect things that I've had personal experiences with, or I can tell my stories to you guys that sort of brings in a real worldness of it. And the White House Correspondents' Dinner is one of those things that I can talk about and talk to because I've been to that experience, to that event, to that exact room, to that exact space. So I can explain it in a non-journalistic way. So first and foremost, it is a see and be seen kind of event. There is everyone recognizable from your TV screen that you watch, whether it's Fox News or CNBC or CNBC. I guess CNBC are there actually, but CNN, MS Now, all of the cable news. Then you have the network news and people that you're just like familiar with or you've grown up watching. There's so much of that. But then you also have politicians, cabinet members, other very well-known faces in the administration or connected to the administration. Then you have celebrities. Then you have like, you can have some A-list. I don't know which A-list were there this year. I don't think many. And you get some B, C, D list. Like you get the reality star, because what happens is the people get tables. So this is ultimately a fundraiser. It's a fundraiser for the organization to help pay for, things that journalists are going through and experiencing. They give awards. It's a big, big deal, and it's an excuse for people on both sides to come together, have a little sense of humor, have a little bit of fun with each other, and celebrate even in the midst of a crazy attack on journalism and media in this moment in time. And I must admit, I've been twice and both were Democratic presidents. So I don't honestly think that I would have gone with others, but I don't know. I think if I'd been invited under like a Bush regime, I might have gone. I did not go this year. I had no intention. I did get invited. There are lots of parties. People can also go for the weekend and go to the parties and not go to the actual dinner. And I actually prefer that. But let me tell you why. So it's a see or be seen. You see everybody, you're gawking. It is crazy. Women who haven't been and who are not necessarily good in high heels always learn a very painful, and I mean that literally and figuratively, lesson when it comes to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, because you have to walk a long way to get to the hotel. They close off the perimeter about 5 blocks, and that's just, they say there was no security. They had a security issue, clearly, but that's from within the building. Externally, yes, they it's still a working hotel, so people are able to come and go, but you can't have cars driving up. You can't have anybody. It doesn't matter if you are an attendee with a ticket, you cannot get close to the building. And now I'm sure, obviously, the president and the members of the administration are within a private area, but the general sort of, say there are 1,000 guests, journalists and the guests of the people at the tables, you have a 5-block radius. And Washington, D.C. is not flat. So there are hills, and there's some cobblestone or sidewalks and roads and crowds and protesters. And if you're navigating those in stilettos and heels, it is really, really hard. You will see loads of women either entering or exiting that dinner with their shoes in their hand, walking barefoot on the streets of D.C. So you're already you get in, it is crowded. You go through, you sort of just walk into the hotel for sure, but there are different layers or different levels. You go up and down escalators, you're going into different various, you're going down, down, down to the ballroom, which is ultimately the sort of location where you all get to. Really bad cell service, sometimes not at all. And I will say, I was there 2 years ago. Maybe it was 3 years ago. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I remember when we were leaving, you are far down and it is a lot of people. They pack in. I don't think it's fire code. I'm just telling you, you can't get the chairs are back to back. If I'm sitting at my table, there is somebody that the servers can't get through the seats. They are packed in that tight. So my table would have appetizers, whereas the table behind me or next to me would already be on their desserts because the servers could not get to all the tables at the same uniform time. They pack you in like sardines. So I remember saying, or I was with a group of people saying when we were walking out last time, imagine if there was a fire, imagine if there was scare, we'd be dead. It would be a horror show. So I understand that feeling of fear and being trapped and you don't know what's going on. So I just want to preface that. But you're packed in. So there is lots of security once you get into those layers, and they have those things to detect if you have any metals on you, beyond a metal detector. It's a serious program. But you do have tickets. I don't understand in this day and age why it wouldn't be a verified ticket where you have it, it's identified to you and you have to show a face scan or something. I bet you that's coming because those tickets now are interchangeable. And I don't know. It seems there's a lot they could have done. And obviously they fucked up And it's sort of like, why? This is the same hotel that Reagan was shot in. So like we've had a long time to figure out planning, but we've also had a horrible shooting that took place in Las Vegas, if you guys recall, within a hotel, the Mandalay Bay, where this very thing happened, which I'm sure this shooter was, inspired by to some extent. He got there the day before, he checked into the hotel, he brought a ton of fucking ammo, and nobody batted an eye because he was paying and a paid hotel guest. And like, I guess maybe they think, terrorists aren't going to pay hotel fees. I don't know, but we've already seen this before. Not our first rodeo. It boggles the mind why Secret Service, FBI, hotel security, Washington security wouldn't have had a manifest and done background checks on everybody staying in the hotel. Sorry. But that's clearly going to change. But here's where we get a little humorous. Nobody was hurt. And there was a little bit of maybe, and I'm saying this, and I have friends there, and I understand, and everybody experiences trauma, and you don't know, and you see other people diving under the tables. I understand, but then you have this guy.
You have Tulsi Gabbard in that room. You, of course, have J.D. Vance in that room, naturally the President of the United States. And as John mentioned, the White House Correspondents' dinner is where we are presently broadcasting from.
Yes, that's right, this guy. For those of you not watching, you've probably seen it. If you saw the newsletter, you saw it. This is a gentleman sitting at a table. Everybody around him are under tables. This isn't after everyone's left. There's some confusion. There's other stuff once people have left that happens, but this is in the midst of an active, potential shooter in the area. Nobody knows that this guy has been taken down. It's all rumors. People are under tables. You have, Secret Service and feds and like the protocol, which is they have freaking guns pointed in the room to take out anybody that might pop up, to protect the assets that they are removing in that moment. So assets are members of the cabinet, other than Kash Patel. We don't understand what's going on, but he's not a cabinet member. I don't think, right? I don't think so. I don't know, it says the head of the FBI. This is where, I'm not a poli-sci person. Anyway, the point is they're being removed. The images that you've seen of Stephen Miller grabbing his wife's boobies being whisked out, when you saw J.D. Vance being taken out by his suit jacket pulled from the chair. You saw RFK Jr. Abandoning his wife in real time as they whisk him away, and she's, God bless her, chasing after him, which is clearly an analogy of their entire relationship. So you have all of that going on while this icon, who apparently is a super agent, is sitting there eating a salad, eating his burrata salad, and unbothered, just sitting there eating his salad. And it's honestly one of the most iconic images to come out of any sort of event, in my opinion. I mean, this guy is a legend. He's a legend. He's sort of like, what are you going to do? And it turns out what he came out and said, that he has a really bad back, and that if he did get down on the ground, then it would take medical personnel to get him off the ground because his back he wouldn't be able to get up again. And also that he's like a germaphobe, clean freak, and there was no way that he was going to put his body on the floor of the Hilton. Legend. I mean, a legend. I know you guys have seen the viral videos as well of these women grabbing the wine bottles off the tables. Okay, let me say, and I know depending on, like, people said, I need to know what political party they are to determine whether or not I like this or not. Like, no, I don't care if they're Democrats or Republicans. I get it. I think if I was like 22, 23, I would have done the same thing. These women are not. They are not. They are not 22 or 23. So I do think it's what my mother would say, NOKD, like, let's grab the wine. But here's here's also why. And I'm saying it's not whether they were Republicans or Democrats. If that had been like bottles of Chateau Margaux, my God, go grab it. Like, even if it had been like a bottle of like Santa Margarita Pinot Grigio, $30 bottle wine, delicious, a delicious, crisp, dry wine, delicious, highly recommend. I understand. Like, if it had been a $600 bottle, fine. If it had been a $30 bottle, let me be clear. The wine that sits on those tables is undrinkable. I am telling you this from firsthand personal experience. You are better off getting $2 chuck at Trader Joe's, much more delicious. This wine is garbage. Like, it is, when you get red wine that you can see through when you pour it and it's like light cranberry juice, like that's what it looks like, see through, like a fully see through. That is what that white, first of all, was warm, not cold, and disgusting. Like, it burns the sides, like your taste buds on the sides of your like lower jaw. You know that feeling when you're like a tangy. It is undrinkable. And the reason why I know this, oh God, guys, I can't tell you how dreadful these dinners are. The reason why I know this is because they don't serve cocktails in the dinner. You cannot get cocktails. So another iconic photo was of this photographer taking images, taking pictures, and still holding his glass of bourbon. That is a rare, like, you're not letting go of your alcohol. If you snuck it in, people sneak in flasks, through different, let's just be clear, they're sneaking in guns. Somebody's getting in a flask. They're sneaking in flasks. And they're bringing, or like fancy people are able to get in a bottle or something. Sometimes you could get a drink from inside the hotel and get it in. But you do not sit at the table and you can't order yourself like a vodka soda. You cannot get a dirty martini. It is not happening. They are not there for that. It is not happening. So you are locked in. You are desperate. You are going to take what you can get, those bottles on that table, so you start to drink it. No. I became a sober person that night. Like, I did not touch. I took it in my mouth and I nearly gagged. So taking that wine is not as much of a flex as they thought it was, or that you who watched it thought it might be. Terrible, disaster, disgusting. Like, I would rather rub my naked body all up on the bottom of that Hilton floor and get all up in there than put that wine anywhere near my lips. It is disgusting, rancid, waste of money, as is the food, as is everything about it. Like, to Trump's credit, like, there does need to be some disruption. Like, I am all for a new experience. I do not think that a White House Correspondents' dinner should take place in the White House in his ballroom, but I do think they need to change it up. But it's the biggest room in DC right now, so that's why they're there. Let me tell you why this year I think was sort of destined for disaster. I'm not going to buy into this whole conspiracy theory. It wasn't real, whatnot. I'm not going to get into the politics and whether one thinks that Democrats are fueling the fire when everyone's fueling the fire, including the president of the United States. But, this is a president who has mocked and criticized and tried to shut down and fire media. Just in the last, 24 hours since the event happened, he gets interviewed by Nora, my God, I don't remember her name, but you know who I'm talking about, from 60 Minutes, CBS, his favorite network right now. And Nora McDonald, I think is her name. He gets interviewed by her where she's reading the manifesto, which, of course, that's what you do. The manifesto has been revealed and what the shooter is. And he freaks out on her, and is like, you're disgusting. Of course you're going to read that. I'm not a pedophile. I'm not. And she's like, so genius. She's like, oh, do you think it was about you? Because it's not specified that it's about Trump. It could be, it's about the administration. So he tried to get, it was disgusting himself in his behavior towards this journalist, trying to have Jimmy Kimmel fired again. And he didn't have a comedian, a long standing tradition at the White House Correspondents' Dinner is the MC is a comedian, and they make fun of everybody in the room, and they make fun of the sitting president. They also make fun of people like Donald Trump has been made fun of both as president when he didn't show up, or when he was running for president, or just in the audience. They didn't have a comedian. They had an illusionist. They had an illusionist who was doing an illusion. He's sort of like able to see the world. He's able to predict things, apparently, but he wasn't able to predict what went down as he was showing the president and the first lady his like trick. Donald Trump did not look enthused during it at all. So I'm almost entirely certain he was relieved to get a break in that. But the way that the dinner is set up is that these media companies buy tables, and everybody is there with one exception, big exception, which is the New York Times. They do not participate in this bullshit. They do not buy into the sort of like, oh, we're going to be besties with the people we cover, the people that have shut us down. And that's not just under Trump, that they don't go to this. But lots of media are there. Tables then invite guests, like invite somebody controversial. They'll invite like somebody, if the president was accused of having an affair, they'll invite the person they're having an affair with. There's always some sort of controversial character in the mix. Like in this particular setting, you had Erica Kirk was somebody's guest. You've all seen the crying thing. So that's the lay of the land, why you get like some Bravo celebrities sometimes. Like some of the Vanderpump Rules people were there when I attended a couple years ago. Like what? But it's a party, and the parties are fun, and it's all meant to be in good fun, except when you're living in sort of scary fucking end of time days. There's a lot of controversy, obviously, around how this administration handles free speech and the media. So it just felt icky. Like all of it felt ick from the get-go. And it's sort of like, this was sort of the appropriate note for it to end on, not like God, like forbid anybody got hurt. Nobody did. But it just sort of felt like there was no other way for it to go. I can only imagine what Trump's speech was going to be like. I assume we'll get a redo, like he said, but who knows? Like, who knows? Maybe they'll say, sorry, due to security issues, we just can't do it this year. But the whole thing just felt icky. It felt icky that these people who have criticized this administration so much, so many of them, were there sort of like, haha, drinks in hand. Like, it just gave me the ick. I had no desire to be there. And so then when you had this sort of drama moment, never did this guy get downstairs, never did he get into the ballroom, but they don't know. I understand it. There were some young journalists who put the cameras on themselves. And I don't mean the people that got out and went on camera to report out. I'm talking about people who were taking selfies, like this reporter from the Free Press who got a lot of heat for this.
We were just seated over, I'm seated near one of the doors, and there...
Zay!
People are shouting USA now. I don't know, I just heard like 4 huge knocks by this door.
But, like a tip, if you're reporting on something, turn the camera outwards. You're not this story. And there was a lot of that. Now, I'm not saying people don't take pictures of themselves, whatnot, but it was a lot of performative sort of angsty, like, oh my God, look at me. Whereas people who were there, like these camera people were there, fearless, standing there on the floor where this person was, where all of the Secret Service and feds and everyone are running around with these huge guns, and they don't miss a beat. They stay there. That camera stays steady. That's like, we see all of this kind of come to life. So really, really incredible, I have to say, in terms of the variety. But let's talk about some of the funny memes besides the ones that I've talked about. Because there were a lot. obviously the ladies drinking and the guy not moving were legend. I mean, they really were legend. But this is one of my favorites. So Wolf Blitzer was actually on the floor where the shooter was. He saw that whole thing. So an amazing place for a newsman to be. He was able to be an eyewitness. So not only, he's not going off reporting, he's going off what he actually saw. But there's this image of him on the phone and another guy holding up a phone next to him. And it's such like we've all been with somebody like this who anyway, and this is for any of you who don't know this restaurant. It's there are a lot of places, including Los Angeles. Me at Din Tai Fung calling the rest of my party to hurry up because they won't seat us without everyone being here. And the face that like Wolf is just sitting there like it's a dad look. Like, guys, you get here now. We're not getting our table until everybody is here. It's just God, the people are so creative. And then poor Ben Stiller, really, I mean, the absurdity of this. Anybody that lives online knows that Ben Stiller is a diehard Knicks fan and live tweets Knicks games. That's just what he does. And out of context, I'm sure if you don't know, but like go to his profile and then you see it's like, yes, score. That's how you do it. Get it done. Got it done. And in that particular case, Knicks won. He had tweeted in a litany of tweets. So it was like his whole sort of feed at that moment in time were Knicks tweets. He tweeted, got it done. Within the same time frame that the shooting happened. Let me just be clear. Tweets prior to that were Mitch on fire with a fire emoji. Knicks fans representing Jalen Bronson, Deuce, multiple E's, Carl Anthony Towns, triple downs. I mean, these are all fan speak. So he says, got it done. Nancy Mace, the brain trust, says, got what done? I mean, no, because all of these people on the right erupted and were like, he's tweeting about, got it done, which doesn't make any sense because let me be clear. He didn't get anything done, this shooter. And to be a little crass, I know they say, it's always the far left that chooses violence. There has been so much far right violence. I mean, my God, whether in this moment in time or going back into, others who have been killed. I'm just going to say the right, they get it done. They seem to go and do the thing that they go and set out to do. The far left are, generally speaking, miserable at whatever they're going out to do. So let's not, if you're going to try to say that, but he didn't get it done. So Ben Stiller tweeting got it done makes no sense. Another Twitter user said, what got done, dickbag? Another Twitter user, what did he mean by this at this time? There was a community note that had to be posted to Nancy Mace's post. He was rooting on the Knicks to win their game against the Atlanta Hawks. They did, by the way, win. And then a link to the ESPN story. So a note is written by people who use X and appears when rated helpful by others, and many people rated that helpful. But people came to his defense. Poor guy is just trying to post about Knicks basketball and can't catch a break. Ben's just like, come on, guys. Like, put your thinking caps on. It's not the brain trust. Another thing that went viral big time is Trump obviously used this as an opportunity to address the fact that he wants a ballroom, and that's why he's building a ballroom, because DC needs a ballroom, because this ballroom has failed. And he used it within like 30 seconds of his press conference post his, escape from the Hilton. He immediately used it because it's under litigation as to why he needs a White House ballroom. A tweet came out. Ashley St. Clair, who we all know, confirmed the White House runs group chats telling these accounts what to post. Within minutes of shots fired tonight, before there was any news of casualties or not, and before the president had said this exact talking point, this was the chat in real time. And you have multiple big MAGA people, libs of TikTok. Now, this is before Trump said it in his press conference. This is why we need Trump's ballroom. A big MAGA guy, Andrew Colvett. This is why President Trump needs to build the White House ballroom. End wokeness. Now you know why the left is suing to block Trump's privately funded White House ballroom. Wall Street Mab. We need the White House ballroom. Meghan McCain. I don't want to hear one more fucking criticism of Trump's new ballroom at the White House. By the way, this was all within seconds of shots fired, of the news breaking that shots were fired. And there's a lot. Nick Adams, build the White House ballroom now. So it is so, oh my God, it is just so obvious. But I think that the best memes were the Kash Patel ones. So Kash just like, I mean, there's this meme of him just grabbing bottles and being like, I'm here. Let's hang out. This is a party. He's the head of the FBI. Like, it makes no sense. Like, there were journalists that said that they were exiting and Kash was still there. He had not been secured by his team or by Secret Service. He was just hanging out in the room. And then people got him sort of at the doorways on the road, on the street, like when people are, like, the valet area. And he's just hanging out, like, on his phone. I don't know. But Lloyd Blankfein, how do you say it? Blankfein, I think it is, Wall Street, was at the White House Correspondents' dinner last night. A rare DC trip for me without a subpoena. On the positive side, was exciting. No one was killed. And ended early. A lot of people, the memes were like, well, at least it ended that night early. He went on, I noted a new litmus test for status among the government elite, whether you were whisked away by Secret Service or left to fend. And so Kash Patel was most definitely left to fend. And then I will close out this little piece. I know we've run long, so I want to get through a couple of other things. This is very powerful. Not funny, but let it sit with you for the rest of the day after you hear this. Somebody tweeted, every school needs a ballroom. Think about it. Actually, I'm not going to close there. I'm going to close with this woman because she's actually a founding editor, I think, or columnist from Puck. And she did a few videos, but this one, like, her take resonates really, really. She's in alignment with my thinking. And also, these people were incredibly privileged to have Secret Service, the feds, the cops. Nobody was going to get hurt once they were able to identify this person. Kids don't have that. That's not what happens in a school. We don't have that. So let's end this section with this woman.
It's about 1:30 a.m. and I am finally home from the White House Correspondents' dinner. Thank you to everyone who messaged to check in. I am fine. Pretty much everyone is fine, except for the one Secret Service agent who was shot by another Secret Service agent. Everyone was fine because, let's be honest, we are the elite of the country being protected by elite law enforcement. We're not, American elementary school or high school students being shot like fish in a barrel in our schools. Like, the security was not flawless, obviously, but everyone's fine.
Let's have just a little bit of humor. We're going to go by these quickly. Piers Morgan, not my favorite. Literally not my favorite. Blocked me on Twitter for something. I offended his delicate psyche years and years ago. But every once in a while, a broken clock is right, twice a day, right? Every once in a while, somebody like Piers Morgan does something of note. And in this moment, his was with Russell Brand. And he didn't really do anything. It's what he didn't do. So Russell Brand, obviously a loathsome character, using Christianity, the Bible, all of that to sort of try to get out of sex charges for being a rapist, and already is admitted to sleeping with a 16-year-old. Just ick. Like, always had the ick about him. Married to Katy Perry. Ick. All of it ick. He's on trial, and he went to court with the Bible. So he does, inexplicably, why he's doing press, he did a Piers Morgan interview and thought that he could be funny and charming and brings his Bible, and Piers Morgan says, is that the Bible that you brought? Just take a look. It's an awkward 30 seconds, but if you haven't seen it, it's genius.
Can I go back to asking you a question about your Bible?
Yes, if you want to.
Thank you. Was that the one you took into court?
You're the very one.
Okay. What was your thinking of taking it into court? And what you were seeing, looking at some passages, what were the relevant passages for you?
All right. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. That didn't hurt, did it?
A little bit. It was this from Isaiah. And you're right, Bear did say, be chilled. Sometimes I lose the chill, man. It's pretty... It's this.
So you see what I mean by what Piers didn't do. He let it go. He just let him do his thing. He didn't, there other media people might have been like, it's okay. Like, just pick something out. Like a comedian would have just been like, well, hey, making something up to get rid of that awkward dead silence. But Piers just let it go, and it gave us gold. So let me just give you some of the memes, because those are my funny ones. Trying to figure out where you went wrong building that IKEA cupboard. You're just thumbing through the Bible. Me flicking through the menu at an Indian restaurant, pretending to be open-minded when I know full well I'm going to order the chicken tikka masala. Trying to look serious. Trying to find a GIF before the chat moves on. That's so me. When I'm in my group chats, I'm like trying to find it before somebody changes the subject, and then my GIF makes no sense. Looking through the wine list, knowing full well you're going to order the second cheapest one. And then congratulations to Russell Brand on finally being funny. Good. They're really, really good. Michael Jackson, guys. Michael, the movie. This is where I made a reference in the newsletter that I wanted to talk about it in the podcast, not the newsletter. So let's just say it's a biopic, and doing a biopic on Michael Jackson, not talking about any of the abuse charges or anything like that, is like doing a biopic on Harvey Weinstein and just focusing on the creation of Miramax and the Oscars that they won. It's absurd. It's absurd, but they did it. And there are legal reasons why. I guess they had to do reshoots, that they found a crazy sort of like, I can only imagine, just envision the lawyers calling everybody related to the film, the financiers, the production company, the director, the stars, the agents, the managers, and being like, we have a fucking problem. And the problem is that they found out after they'd already been in production that there was like a little secret little thing in one of the contracts that meant that if they talked about it, basically all the profits could go elsewhere. Like, it was just going to shut it down. It was a disaster. That if they reference the abuse, there's like a caveat hidden in something, that it was going to be a disaster for them. So somebody found it. Now, they found it late, but they found it. And I can only imagine, like, it's like a scene out of any sort of Hollywood show. Like, this is a fiasco. So they had to spend $1 gazillion and do reshoots and redo the whole movie. So it's not entirely their fault, though I think there was a lot of family members involved with the making of the movie. That being said, the reviewers hated it. Like, when you're reading the reviews, you're like, you're just going to imagine that nobody's going to go see this movie. Headlines like this. The Rap. Michael exists in a vacuum that obliterates vital context and important people. It prints a legend and edits out everything that detracts or distracts from that legend. Jafar plays this up in every scene, portraying Michael as a tragic figure whose life was ruined, blah, blah, blah. BBC, Michael Jackson film is a whitewash and ghoulish, critics say. Another reviewer wrote, Michael review, it's bad, really, really bad. Rotten Tomatoes has reportedly removed all fake and paid reviews for Michael. The film now holds the first ever negative score. The Independent found Michael horrendous. Human beings turned into commercial products with no regard for the consequences. Somebody tweeted, the team behind Michael should make a Hitler movie that ends with him triumphantly receiving the Iron Cross first-class medallion for his distinguished service on the Western Front in World War II. Here's a headline. Box office stunner. Michael over the moon with record $97 million U.S. opening, $217 million globally. It is now past Oppenheimer in a biopic, and it's becoming the biggest music movie of all time. And that's just the first weekend. Fans love it. People are losing their minds. Take a look at just some of the audiences. These movies are bringing people to life. Lots of theatrics. So just check it out.
Love for my father, for our father, and for the music and the joy that he brought into this world.
So my take is simple. Well, it's not simple, but it's delicate. I think the Michael Jackson case has always been riddled with complications. What I mean by that is that the people who've come forward, the kids, the families, were imperfect victims, which I have in quotes. He was never convicted of sexually abusing a child. We need to preface that. He was guilty in the court of public opinion of just being creepy, of being a man-child, of never, really having that child's voice, the costumes, the sleeping with children in the room in Neverland, having Neverland be this amusement park for children. You get that Jimmy Savile view, sort of like a predator puts themselves right in. But whereas in Jimmy Savile's case, there were real victims and real evidence, and these were the most vulnerable of children, sick children, disabled children. These kids that came forward were imperfect storytellers. There had been contracts signed by the parents, money that had exchanged hands, that perhaps maybe Michael and his team found it just easier to deal with people who were trying to take advantage of them. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that's a flip side to the conversation. There was lots of people involved that had been looking for celebrity and fame or some sort of monetary payout. These are complicated. That is what is complicated. There are a lot of children, a lot more children that he worked with and that had connections that have not come out. There have been a lot of children that have said, I never saw that. I mean, he was playful with me and fun and I hung out with him, but I never saw that side of him. So it's complicated. I think he was incredibly mentally ill, whether it was from his childhood and the abuse that he suffered, the sudden fame as a child. And they do say, and anybody who knows people who have become very, very famous very, very early, fame sort of freezes you in that moment in time. So if you become famous as an 8-year-old, even when you're 50, you're still sort of frozen in time as an 8-year-old. If you became famous as a 20-year-old, you're frozen in time as that 20-year-old. And that makes a lot of sense, right? So he had no childhood. He became this superstar as a child. It makes sense that he sort of never grew up in that Never Land sort of idea. He also clearly was a drug addict. And we also have to remember that Pepsi debacle, he was burned. He had burns. That's traumatizing. It created a lot of psychological damage, I am sure. And on top of being the most famous person in the world and not being able to live a normal life, all of those things sort of contributed to his weirdness. We don't know if he was an abuser. However, it is a huge part of the story. There was lots and lots and lots of news around it. So it just feels icky to have a biopic that is not a part of. But I will watch this movie on an airplane, I am sure. I'm not going to pay to go see this movie, but it just shows you that like there's still something about Michael that people weren't buying is being bad. Like you can separate the art from the artist, right? But then you have Kanye, which we've seen, unless all those people who went to see him recently at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles are all anti-Semites, and that's possible. But in Los Angeles, hard to imagine. People separate the art from the artist, say like he can be an asshole and gross, but I love the experience. Michael Jackson has a cultural chokehold on not just our nation, the world. And the global impact of Michael Jackson, where the third world countries know Michael Jackson, they don't even know all of this stuff. Like kids don't know about that. That's not part of their sort of history. So he clearly has a huge impact on the world still. I've never been like of the mindset of we shouldn't have his music on Spotify, separating the art from the artist. It's tricky, but also we don't stop watching Miramax movies, right? Those movies are still available. So I don't know why that outcry. And he is convicted. He is convicted. So everyone's messy. Everyone has an opinion. But my issue is the movie bad? Reviewers seem to think so. Fans don't seem to care. So if you guys have thoughts on it, I want to know. We talked a lot about other things. Go to the newsletter. I don't have time. But I do want to end with this because it's an incredible fucking video. It's an incredible visual. So for those of you who are not familiar with Young Lean, he's, I think, like 29. He is a Swedish rapper, and my God, if I were 29, I would go to Sweden, find him, and be like, that is, like, if you want to know my type, like love that guy. And he did a collab with this thing called Generation, but with an 8. And that's a multimedia music project created by Sirkin, a French producer and visual artist. And this is a music video / 7-minute film directed by French director Romain Gavras. And it is truly sensational. I encourage you to watch the whole thing. But the choreography, like the lead up, the first 5 minutes is this sort of like little mini movie, and then you get into the music and the choreography, and it's a bunch of like schoolboys at a boarding school, one would imagine in like the UK or something along those lines, with all of the things that happen. Check it out. Can't play the whole thing. Go watch it yourselves. I'll put a link in the show notes. Another music thing, though, before we close out, actually, because I'm still in the music thing, is Suno. I am all about Suno for this use case scenario. I want my music to come from real artists. You just saw why, like, Young Lean, like, that's real art. But Suno, AI making music, there's a trend going around where it started, I think it started with the parents, but maybe it started with the kids. So people are taking funny or maybe abusive or maybe drunken texts, whether they get from their child or their parent or somebody in their life, and they give it to Suno to make it into a song. And it's funny. It's really, really funny. For example, here's this mom taking ridiculous texts from her son, like texts that are like, do I have a maiden name? What is my DOB? Can I use dish soap for laundry? That kind of thing. She turned it into a song.
Still asking where to start. Mom, what is lukewarm water? What's my address? Do I have Medicare? How many dependents do I have? What's my DOB? Why do I have to pay for water? Can I use dishwashing soap for laundry? Do I have a maiden name?
And then this, I want to end on a beautiful note. Just a little bit of this. This man, got emo texts from his mother at 3 a.m. and turned it into, I know I just said it's art, but in this context, it's a beautiful song.
Are you up? Sorry, I know it's late. I've been staring at the ceiling since 1. Nothing happened, don't worry. I was just looking at an old photo of you, the one from the kitchen where you're like 4 and you're holding that blue spoon. I don't know why, but I started crying. I don't think I told you enough how good you were. You were so quiet. You used to watch me cook and you wouldn't say anything. You would just watch. And I was so tired back then. I think I was kind of absent.
There are a lot of fun ones. There are a lot of funny ones. So with that, my darlings, I am not doing a pod next week. I know that's like I didn't do last week and not next week, but I'm going to be in London. So if any of you are in London and I haven't reached out to you, it is simply because I just don't have the brain capacity to remember. 52, guys. That's right. I cannot remember everything. So hit me up. I would definitely love to see you. I'm there all week. Find me. And thank you to Live Nation, obviously, for making this podcast possible. And thank you, Ethan and Joe, for being my producers and making the magic happen. Bye, guys.